Save the bees. This has become the well-known slogan of the recent movement to protect the bee population, but many people now say it lightheartedly or as a joke. The truth is that this issue is a major problem in the US as well as around the world. An article by Fox News reports that about 1/4 trillion bees have succumbed to colony collapse disorder since it was first observed in France in 1994. How does this relate to all of us? Well, according to Marla Spivak, who received her PhD from the University of Kansas and is now a professor of entomology at the University of Minnesota, more than 1/3 of the world's crop production is dependent on the bee population. I have done extensive research in order to find out the cause of the decline of bees and to see what can be done. Action needs to be taken to resolve humanity's mass extinction of bees in order to maintain the global food system. I will begin by describing the severity of the problem, what farmers are doing to mitigate it, what life is like for bees and us if the problem continues, and finally, simple solutions that everyone can contribute to. The fall of the bee population has only been noticed in more recent years. So what changed? And what effect does this have? Well, Spivak describes that one of the main causes is a change in farming techniques after World War II. Farmers began to use less cover crops, which restore nutrients to the soil, as well as provide a source of food for pollinators, while the main crop is not always in bloom. Also, the use of artificial chemicals began after World War II with things such as pesticides, herbicides, etc. It's possible for us to survive on a diet without bees. However, more would need to be produced, and it would look quite bland. The article by Fox News listed a few of the crops that would no longer be around, including apples, almonds, blueberries, onions, pumpkins, and many more. This is all in addition to the honey that honeybees produce, which is a natural sweetener, and crops that feed livestock like alfalfa, which is very important for the livestock farms. Since this issue directly impacts farmers and beekeepers, they have been the first ones to come up with a few solutions, at least to put off the problem. They have turned to more drastic measures to minimize their losses. The Center for Research on Globalization describes that commercial bees raised on farms and then shipped to other farms in the country are responsible for pollination of an estimated 80% of all food crops in the United States. This means that the situation is so severe that bees have to be trucked in and trucked out in order to achieve pollination. Not only is this process unnatural, but it's also a waste of time and money. Even with the shipment of bees, the fact that 30% of beehives are still lost every winter, according to Spivak, this shows that other measures need to be taken. To combat this loss, farmers currently split their hives every year, which allow them to grow faster and replace bees, but this still requires a lot of time. There's one more problem facing bee health that, when added to the aforementioned, paint a horrifying picture of current bee life. To put it all together, the issues bees face that I've already mentioned mostly come down to a lack of a food source. This is due to no cover crops, herbicides which kill plants that bees could supplement as cover crops, and pesticides. Neonicotinoids are a more modern version of pesticides. They target the central nervous system of insects, damaging their navigational capabilities, impairing their memory, and eventually leading to paralysis. This according to an article by The Guardian. So imagine trying to go to class on an empty stomach, with each class making you more and more disoriented, and on top of all this, there's a giant parasite on the back of your neck circulating viruses. Yeah, varroa mites are a common parasite for bees which can impair movement and make the bees sick. This, of course, is not the fault of humans, but it certainly doesn't help the overall issue. If none of these emotional appeals have impacted you, let's talk money. The estimated monetary loss is a colossal $30 billion a year, according to the Center for Research on Globalization. That's $30 billion of loss every year. So there is good news regarding what people can and are already doing to help. At the large scale, the Agriculture Research Service has been researching ways to detect colony collapse disorder and monitor colony health overall. They've also researched methods in order to limit the continuation of the varroa mite, and that is according to the United States Department of Agriculture. It is not necessary for you to get involved on such a deep scale, or even to start a club, however, that wouldn't hurt. A much simpler solution is to buy local and organic, if at all possible, because this supports farms who are more likely not using chemicals and who do plant cover crops. Finally, something anyone can do is plant flowers. Plant flowers, and when you plant them, do not poison them with fertilizers and pesticides, fungicides, etc. Plant flowers and save the bees.